Hey everybody, this is Jenn Dailey.
Sarah Garcia-Smith.
And Sanchez.
And today we're going to be talking about the case at the end of the Organized Anarchy chapter in Dr. Manning's book. That case is called A Change in Mission Generates Disruption.
Before we get into the case, we will provide some context and background as it relates to curricular change in higher education.
We will then approach the case using bureaucracy, collegium, and the garbage can model. Amid a growing disillusionment with higher education, thousands of institutions are seeking ways to adapt to a rapidly changing landscape that has been destabilizing by skeptics, an impatient workforce, and a fierce conservative populist streak. This was written by Erica Green in the New York Times article, Colleges Adapt to Changing Students. The disillusionment with higher education and an increased demand for return on investment from consumers are causing institutions to reevaluate decades and centuries-old practices. At the center of this reevaluation is curriculum change. Higher education, as we read in A Perfect Mess, has become a crowded marketplace that must respond to consumer demands. This competitive higher education market is competing for students with other schools, and curriculum change can attract those students. The changes that we are seeing are more innovative practices and cutting-edge curriculum choices, less of a check-the-boxes model on core curriculums, allowing students to focus on areas that they're passionate about, and a greater focus on job generation, choosing curriculums and majors, instead of forcing them to critically think, to force them to thinking about getting a job after graduation.
All this change causes disruption. What is the impact of this and who's involved in this disruption that occurs with change? We typically see that administrators, faculty, students, staff, and community members are affected by this change. They're all affected by this change differently and distinctly. But it is important to talk about the disruption because it does cause a lot of disruption, not only amongst the administration who is doing the change, but also those students who are experiencing the change.
A recent example of curriculum-related change within U.S. higher education took place on this campus during the 2013-2014 academic year when an ad hoc core review committee formed by the CU Boulder Arts and Sciences Council recommended revising the College of Arts and Sciences core curriculum, a curriculum which had been in place for nearly 30 years. In October 2014, the ad hoc core revision committee was formed with the task of drafting a proposal for a revised core curriculum. Previously, the core curriculum, which represents a large portion of the general education requirements for all CU Boulder students, was divided into two parts: skills acquisition and content areas of study. Skills acquisition requirements included courses in the areas of foreign language, quantitative reasoning and mathematical skills, and written communication. Throughout 2015, the core revision committee met regularly, and the committee co-chairs, each faculty members within the college, met with various campus stakeholders to garner input. Prior to the committee's formal proposal, several town halls were held to present proposal options to faculty members and elicit their feedback. In the fall of 2016, the core revision committee's curriculum proposal was voted on by the Faculty of Arts and Sciences and approved. After the overhaul, the core curriculum included two basic categories of requirements: skills and distribution. According to Stephen R. Lee, CU Boulder Arts and Sciences faculty member and Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at the time of the vote to revise the curriculum, we will be offering our students new levels of flexibility in determining their academic careers through the choices and possibilities the new curriculum holds. We also anticipate greater breadth of course offerings and closer matches of our faculty expertise with these new courses. We are truly excited about the possibilities of the new curriculum for our students and faculty. The new curriculum went into effect at the start of this semester. The trend amongst elite colleges and universities to make their course materials freely available to the public via the internet is another example of curricular change in U.S. higher education and an example directly related to our case, which we will get to momentarily. Taylor Walsh, author of Unlocking the Gates, How and Why Leading Universities Are Opening Up Access to Their Courses, states that online courseware initiatives are ones which traditional degree-granting institutions convert course materials originally designed for their own undergraduates into non-credit-bearing online versions for the general public. Walsh contrasts these initiatives with those of mainstream institutions interested in offering tuition-based, credit-bearing online distance education programs that can lead a student to a degree. Walsh also gives the history of online courseware initiatives which began in the mid to late 1990s with the dot-com boom. One of the first attempts was that of Columbia University, which partnered with 9 other leading cultural institutions to form Fathom, a profit-seeking business offering primarily fee-based, non-credit-bearing online courses. Fathom ultimately failed as an online courseware initiative. All Learn, a nonprofit consortium, is a second example of an unsuccessful attempt at gaining an online educational presence with non-credit-bearing courses available to the public. While not-for-profit, All Learn tried to recoup its member institutions' investments by charging for access to their online course content. After many challenges, All Learn ended its partnership and closed. Many elite universities have implemented successful online courseware programs which provide online versions of their course materials to the public for free. Examples of programs include Carnegie Mellon's Open Learning Initiative, Open Yale Courses, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's OpenCourseware. According to Walsh, it was MIT's OpenCourseware project, implemented in 2001, that set the standard for open access online course materials, when the institution committed to offer freely available web-based versions of syllabi, lecture notes, reading lists, assignments, and other materials for virtually all of its courses. The comprehensive nature of MIT's project, more than 2,000 courses have been made available, combined with its open access, have led to its success. As it turns out, the primary users of MIT's OpenCourseware were self-learners around the world and not necessarily educators as courseware creators originally anticipated. MIT's reputation was bolstered in the eyes of the world at large and the school's own alumni. Though motivations of MIT and other elite colleges and universities that have implemented free online courseware may seem altruistic, Walsh states that MIT viewed OpenCourseware as a break from the emerging commercial model and a bold new step in a new direction, but only after coming to the conclusion, with the help of market research and consultants, that a for-profit model would not be successful. Reminiscent of the concept of interest convergence found within scholarly literature on critical race theory, Walsh argues that free online courseware projects like MIT's and others are a benefit offered to society in an era in which wealthy parent universities that spend so much to educate so few have faced pushback from the public. Essentially, these institutions are willing to freely share some of their vast knowledge with the world, but only so long as the institution benefits in some way, only so long as it diverts attention away from the institution's wealth and exclusivity, which remain intact, and it appears as though a selfless deed for society is being done. We now turn to our case concerning potentially disruptive curricular change at Epicenter Technology Institute, an institution based on MIT.
Our case is, as Sarah was telling us, is an institution called Epicenter Technology Institution. And it is a curricular change process that an institution seeks to maintain its tradition of innovation and experimentation through curricular change. They are trying to have this curricular change occur while still keeping true to its roots. ETI is a 200-year-old institution based in a large city that has a reputation for being cutting edge. It is very integrated into its surroundings and its community, and it is also responsible for a lot of home good improvements like their microwave and computer hardware.
All right, let's talk about the players in this case. We have Dr. Lincoln, who was our current president of ETI. He was a provost at a previous institution and is currently being courted by that institution. Dr. Kimball, our current provost, appointed 6 months ago, and she's said that she understands this honeymoon period may be the only chance she gets to make large-scale changes. Dr. Royce, our dean of the School of Engineering, she's been at ETI for 20 years, and she's concerned about the impact curricular change would have on her very successful programs. Dr. Norton, the chair of our task force on curricular change created by the president and provost, not afraid of major upheaval and wants to make content available to the general public. Dr. Briggs, who's our associate provost, does not want change just for change's sake and wants this to be a deliberative process.
President Lincoln has tasked Provost Kimball with organizing a task force on curricular change made up of faculty, staff, and students. She appointed Dr. Norton as chair of the task force and has also invited Dr. Royce and Dr. Briggs to the committee, knowing they bring different perspectives. During the first meeting, the president conveys to the task force that the Board of Trustees wants a process to be undertaken that crafts the future of the curriculum at Epicenter Technology Institute. In 6 months' time, a proposal must be presented to both the president and the institution's governing boards. The president's expectation is that the process will involve extensive discussions with the task force and among governance groups about available options and potential directions for ETI's curriculum, and he leaves the task force with a reminder that ETI will always remain at the cusp of innovation, inventiveness, and opportunity. Next, we describe 3 lenses through which the case can be viewed and what the curricular change process at ETI might look like through each lens.
Decision-making in a bureaucracy is often characterized as a sea of red tape. The red tape comes from a complex set of steps that form the rational decision-making process. These steps include identifying the problem, gathering information, analyzing the situation, developing options, evaluating the alternatives, selecting an alternative, and finally acting on a decision. Pretty difficult to manage all these in a 6-month timeline. Having a set process for decision-making theoretically removes the need for gut reactions or decisions, though this process can be time-consuming as well as extensive, which are terms not normally associated with innovative or cutting edge. In large hierarchical organizations like higher ed institutions, there are limits to time and resources. These limits often lead to organizations choosing the path of least resistance or one that satisfies sufficient parameters of the situation. In order to gather ideas and information from the bottom of the hierarchy, committees will be formed. These committees, comprised of the key stakeholders, will communicate horizontally before reporting vertically. In order to create buy-in to a decision that will ultimately be made from the top, the organization must grow trust at lower levels. Karen Stevenson's model of heterarchy, a combination of network and hierarchy, says that horizontal and vertical communication exist together in large and complex organizations. This model depends on networks to build trust within and between levels in an organization and allows for top-down decision-making. In a bureaucratic model, appointment of staff is through the office. All knowledge and experience being equal, another person could easily slide into an office and continue on with the work without any major disruptions. In our ETI case, we learned that the president plans on returning to his past institution. Theoretically, the impersonal process of bureaucratic decision-making would say that the president's departure should not affect the plans to change the curriculum.
Collegium, another lens through which this case can be viewed, is perhaps one of the more appropriate lenses given that true collegiums exist only within the context of higher education institutions, and all higher education institutions contain collegiums to one extent or another. It is also appropriate because true collegiums are made up of faculty who hold governance over college and university curriculum. Collegiums can be thought of as circular in terms of structure, operation, and communication. Those within them value cooperation, collaboration, and equality on one hand, and autonomy and independence on the other. They are dictated by faculty culture in which there exists a hierarchy of disciplines with pure ones and applied ones. These same disciplines also function as a source of authority and expert power for faculty who traditionally fall into the ranks of assistant, associate, or full professor. Members of a collegium may be categorized as cosmopolitan or local depending on their commitment level to either their specialized knowledge and skills or their home institution and its students. Academic tenure and academic freedom are two interconnected concepts central to collegiums. A tenured academic appointment is defined by the American Association of University Professors as an indefinite appointment that can be terminated only for cause or under extraordinary circumstances such as financial exigency and program discontinuation. Academic freedom, which receives a certain level of protection from tenure, is described by the American Association of University Professors as the indispensable requisite for unfettered teaching and research in institutions of higher education. Through formation of faculty governance organizations within a collegium, such as faculty senates or councils, faculty can determine policy, review programs, and provide input on institutional matters. It is this form of self-governance that gives faculty the capacity to work with other institutional governance organizations like student governments and staff councils. It also allows them to cooperate with institutional administration. Within collegiums, first among equals leadership is preferred, and those who have been deemed leaders are successful only if they have a solid grasp of the traditional culture and processes found within a collegium. Rather than to command, lead, manage, or order, as is the case with a bureaucratic model, leaders within a collegium serve to listen, gather expert judgments, facilitate, persuade, and negotiate. Next, we will examine the case at hand through the lens of collegium just described. In 2001, ETI launched a historic initiative to publish materials from all their courses and make them freely available to anyone in the world with access to the internet. With this prior experience combined with the institutional specific collegium found at Epicenter Technology Institute, leaders in this case, namely Provost Kimball and Dr. Norton, the task force chair, would do well to keep in mind the leadership style preferred by those within a collegium. First among equals. Their key responsibilities will involve listening to and collecting opinions and judgments from a wide range of MIT constituencies, facilitating constructive deliberation and analysis among task force members. With first among equals leadership in mind, Dr. Royce, the Dean of ETI's School of Engineering, should be allowed to remain on the task force rather than be asked to leave. Both Provost Kimball and Dr. Norton should utilize their collegial leadership skills to persuade and negotiate with Dr. Royce rather than eliminating her voice from the task force.
The garbage can model may seem a little bit confusing at first, but you can put it into everyday terms. Imagine yourself standing in front of a trash can. You have a cup in your hand and you're deciding whether you should put it in this trash can or not. There are a lot of factors that go into your decision making, whether do you put it into this trash can? Is it too full? Does it still fit? Is this the right trash can for this cup? Maybe it can be composted or it's recyclable, so it goes into a different trash can. This is a similar model. This is a similar way that we can see the issue at ETI. All these different factors are seen as different streams, as we can see in this image. The first is a solution stream, which is made up of the task force based on curricular change and online course program. The second is the participation stream, which is made up of all the people involved in the process, like the dean of the School of Engineering, provost, associate provost, president, and other task force members. The third is the choice opportunity stream, which are the factors and choices as it relates to the issue. These are the new provost, considering the history of curricular change not only in the institution but other institutions as a whole, having the support of not only the president but faculty and staff for curricular change, providing high quality academic programming, and having stable staff that will support the change. The fourth is the problem statement, which relates to the issues that may arise. The big issues are budget change, the relationship that the task members have, the added pressure of having the initiative be similar to past initiatives, the decrease in interaction with faculty as we introduce online courseware, and the main issue as it relates to hesitation to change. There is a new trash can that magically starts forming during this process. That is the fact that a new president may be needed as there's this transition. As Jenn already talked about, the current president has been asked to go back to his old institution where he has a new position, where he wants to have a new position, and will be leaving ETI.
We looked at the cases through the separate lenses of bureaucracy, collegium, and the garbage can model. While it's helpful to analyze the situations through these three lenses, in reality, we see these all working together. At the committee levels, faculty members are building networks to share their ideas. We see collegium show up here as the faculty are among peers discussing the proposed changes and the impacts they may have to things like academic freedom, student-to-teacher ratio. There is a hierarchy of decision-making, where committees include a lot of stakeholders that report up through systems of committees and task force chairs. In the timeline given by the president, a few gut decisions will need to happen. Last, we cannot ignore the outside forces impacting the decision-making process. The impending presidential transition, pressure from the community to be a more inclusive institution, time and resources will all impact the process, making it perhaps less rational. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you in class on Monday.